want to try to create something where, ambiverts are roughly 70% of the US population. And I think introverts are miscategorized and extroverts are miscategorized. So if we say ambiverts are roughly 70% of the population, there's only 15 and 15 left, respectively. So if the extroverts are comfortable doing extroverted stuff, then we'll get the 70% from the ambiverts and we'll get the 15% from the extroverts. We'll get 85% coverage. We'll get a little bit of the introverts that can sing just a little tiny bit and then back off. So for us, it was focused on how do we build something for most of the people, not few of the people.
Welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast, where we discuss the latest trends and challenges facing the attractions industry today.
We chat with some of the top leaders in the field and provide resources that will help develop your career in this great industry.
I am Josh Liebman. I am obsessed with the guest experience and helping attractions make that their top priority for success.
And I'm Matt Heller. I am passionate about organizational effectiveness, leadership development, and employee engagement.
Now sit upright, hold on tight, and get ready for the Attraction Pros podcast.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going fantastically, Josh. How are you?
Good. I almost fell over there for those watching.
I saw that. You almost went out of frame completely.
I was trying to see, could I bend far enough that I'll be out of frame, Keanu Reeves style? But no, I cannot. Anyway, I have to practice a lot for that. Question for you.
Yes, sir.
You've had a lot of jobs.
Okay.
I'm guessing you probably had to interview for some, if not most, maybe close to all of those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Any obscure job interviews outside of the maybe traditional, come in, sit down, let's look at your resume. Tell me about a time when you fill in the blank, XYZ.
I have to say, probably the most unique interview experience I had was for a general manager position at a family entertainment center where the owner, the family entertainment center was in Connecticut. And I met the owner in New York and we drove up to Connecticut to this family entertainment center. And when we got there, he said, I've got a couple of calls to make. You go walk around. You probably told you this story before. And I walked around and I saw everything and I took note of lots of different things and walked into the office and he said, what'd you see? And I said, well, this game has duct tape over here. This game has got a lights out over here. There's dirt over here. This team member's not smiling. And then there were some other positive things too. But, I noticed a lot of those things that needed attention. And then we went on with the interview and he later told me that a big part of the reason that he was willing to offer me the job was because of those observations. So that was more than just to come in, sit down, tell us about yourself kind of interview.
Yeah, he tested your skills there in real time. That was the interview. Sounds like that was a huge part of the interview.
It was a big part of it. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Why do you ask?
I ask because our guest today, Nick DiMatteo, he's the CEO of FortyFive Games. By the way, total side note, it's episode 450. Yeah, CEO of
Nice.
FortyFive Games, 45 times 10, episode 450. Boom. Attraction.
Boom.
We did it.
Mic
We're
drop.
getting ready for the Attraction Pros 500 now, coming April 2027. But for right now, we're celebrating 450 with Nick DiMatteo. Anyway, he talked about a lot of things. One of the things that he talked about was an organization that he worked with in Australia that did some unique job interview styles to screen for characteristics. And it included, you know what? He'll tell us what it included. I don't have to tell you.
He'll tell us.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think that leads nicely into one of the things that was an overarching theme, which was changing the world, right?
Yeah.
And he talked about, kind of rethinking, reimagining the birthday party process. And that was also kind of under the umbrella of helping to change the world. So I think this example that he shares in terms of the interview process can also kind of go under that umbrella of changing the world.
100%. And he's working on some cool stuff. He said patent pending that lead to multi-sensory birthday parties that put the party host in control of some of the dynamics in the room between lights, sounds, smells, and just the way he describes that is this going to be the future of birthday party entertainment.
Absolutely. And he also brought up a term that some people might not be aware of, and that term is ambivert. So most of us are familiar with extrovert and introvert, but he talks about ambivert, both from the position of interacting with your guests, but also we tie it into your team members as well.
Yeah, 100%. So, should we bust out the quarters, put them in these coin op games here, and get to this interview with Nick DiMatteo?
I'm going to check the couch cushions, and then let's do it.
All right, grab 450.
Hey, Nick, welcome to the Attraction Pros podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking. I wonder if we can start, maybe not all the way at the beginning, but just to hear a little bit about you and what it is that you do and your career to this point.
All right. So my career started, well, I probably should do background first. So my background is I grew up in the Northeast. Both my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. Both my parents worked. So I spent the majority of my childhood with my mom's father, and he owned a children's clothing store. I love to tell this story. I feel like it honors him a little bit. So I always love to start with these things. I hope that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he was just a hustler. Like both grandfathers served in the military in World War II. When they left, they both started their own companies. One was in repair and one was in children's clothing. So the grandfather with the children's clothing is the one I spent the most time with. He owned this store, real P&L, real business person guy. And just really super lucky to have had that individual in my life. Like as a kid, I had a P&L in my hand in grade school, and across from his shop, as I was like in preschool, there was a little corner store that had an arcade there. So like he would give me change. I'd run over and play games like Joust. And so that's kind of where I started some of my background is just in business, was just at a super young age. And as I grew up, I loved video games. Like I would like search the couch for coins and all the cool cliche stuff, beg people for money, wash cars, collect cans, and then change, get all those change and then go play arcade games, which were across the street from my home. There was like a little corner store in the city, 3 arcade games. And then as I grew up, that really inspired my first job. So I got a paper route to be able to buy a Nintendo at 11, 12 years old so I could play video games at home. So it's like I kind of probably should have seen this coming at an early age. But like my family used to say all this crazy stuff to me, like you're wasting your money, like, that's not a career, like you're just throwing your money away. And I look back, almost 40 years later, and it's been quite a career. And getting to this point, I think as far as jobs, so I started my first real adult job in banking. I love some of the finance stuff. And then an F&B concept stole me. I did about a half a decade with an F&B concept in Philadelphia. And then I kind of fell into amusements, and I never left. And it's one of the strangest career arcs ever, of like banking and financy stuff, and then food and beverage, which is, you could say there's some stuff there, but then falling into amusements and arcade is just a super odd arc. But I love it. I mean, it's a fantastic industry with lots of amazing people, and I get to apply all the things I've learned previously in life to this vertical, which is, it's a lot of fun.
I'm curious if we can touch on a little bit of the saving the money, collecting the coins, doing the car washes and the cans, and flipping over the couch cushions and things like that, and then using that to go play arcade games, which makes perfect sense for a child or someone who's really young, but also with the entrepreneurial family. And they had said, you mentioned your family said you're wasting your money. I was thinking of like that entrepreneurial lens would say, well, yeah, you save all that money, and then that's the seed money to start your business, to invest that, to grow it. And I'm actually curious if those were at odds with each other.
Oh, 100%. My grandfather, while he was, I think I was his favorite grandchild. He didn't have many, but I think I was his favorite. He was always like feeding me change and letting me go to the store. So while in one hand, it was like, hey, you're wasting your money. But on the other hand, it was like, here's 50 cents, So it was a cool duality of like, how do I take care of my grandkid? But also I want to teach him life lessons of how do I manage money? So there was absolutely some of that stuff. What he used to say was always half. So anything I make, half I had to save. And that's the same lesson I do with my kids now. So before they have real adult bills, whatever they make, half has to go into their savings. And it's a diversified savings program we have for them. Some go in stocks, some go in bonds, some go in short and midterm savings. So we bust up that half into little pieces for them so they can see it and they can manage it, or at least understand how to manage it. I think financial acumen and teaching that to people while they're younger is very important now more than ever, because it's just easy for this generation to just lose it. Like there's so much available to them at their fingertips, online shopping and gaming and in-app purchases. I mean, it's you could just blink and that $250 you worked all week for as a part-time kid is gone.
Well, and that's one of the things I was curious about too, Nick, is you talked about, having that P&L in your hand when you were very, very young, and obviously, creating financial acumen as you were growing up, and now applying that in various businesses, right? You talked about the F&B and amusements and arcades. At the end of the day, every business needs to make money, right? And we just make money maybe in different ways. So I'm curious, like, what's the through line from, having that P&L in your hand when you were very, very young, and then looking at all these other businesses and taking those lessons to each of those businesses?
Yeah, man, it's I feel like sometimes it's kismet, so it's like in food and beverage, we had a really small concept. We were the first gastro pub 40-foot beer wall in Pennsylvania. So it was a pizza place. We did sandwiches, some decent things there, a dining in area, and then a 40-foot beer wall. So initially, it was super cool, to try to figure those things out and to learn about table turns. And I had never worked in a restaurant before that. So it was like my first real job in a restaurant was running restaurants, which was, I probably wouldn't advise anybody else to do that. Like your first job is run all of them and not knowing what you're doing. So I made a lot of mistakes. I learned from those mistakes, but those mistakes helped me have a unique point of view on certain things. So in the food and beverage world, we'll talk about table turns or flipping a dining room. So on a peak shift, you want to understand how many times you can flip the dining room, and that has a number of revenue associated with it. So if you could flip it 3 times and the average rev is X, so it's 3X, you know what you'll make then. And then that allows you to have some clarity over what your sales could be or what's happening. You can budget, you can labor, all those things. When I moved into amusements, while it's very different, the idea of table turns or flipping at peak is not far off either. So there's a level of I'll say cross coolness that happens when you learn things, and coming into amusements and taking all of the financial stuff, the banking things, the food and beverage little tricks I've learned and applying it to amusements and how arcades work and entertainment works. There's a lot there that's really similar that you just wouldn't guess. It's not intuitive, but it's totally there.
Where would you say your passion for creating immersive experiences comes from?
Yeah, that's a good one. It really comes from a place I just like to make a difference. And whether I do that with people or whether I do that in businesses, whether I do that with a financial solution, whether I do it strategy based, knowing I can make a difference is something I really love. Early in life, it was a little bit of a personality flaw, people pleasing to a certain degree, but I've been able to learn how to focus that to business instead of just individual. So you take something for me that was a personality flaw and I've kind of spun it into a way that I could use it as a superpower. So feeling like that I can make a difference one kid's party at a time is a super awesome feeling. And that's kind of what drives some of the innovation and what we're chasing, is just thinking that we could really make a difference in the world.
So Nick, you talk about making a difference, and you just mentioned the kids' parties. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of that work that you're doing and the exciting things that are kind of going on in that space that you're working in?
Yeah, I think I could share a little there. We have a product line we're calling Twinkle Star. It is first of its kind, which is super exciting and also unbelievably terrifying. We get to create what we think is going to be some of the best kids' birthday parties. The person in the party controls the sound, the light, and the smell of the environment. Again, first of its kind, super cool stuff, patent pending, but also nobody knows necessarily that they need it yet. So it's like the person that invents the airplane never has the vision that it's going to be used to do other things like transport people all over the world, or drop bombs. You just don't have the vision of what it could be yet. So when you're building the thing, you're building with the initial intent in mind, and then it kind of spiders out. So for us, we think we already have an idea what it's going to do. The spider out part is the part that's super difficult because no one necessarily knows they need it. Party been just static for a half a century. And they're just like gray, white wall behind me and really colorful stuff on the table and colorful decorations. The room is never the star of the show, but in reality, the room absolutely should be the star of the show. It's the one place where everybody is stationary and together. And if it's a kid's party, they're all singing happy birthday. It's one of the most memorable moments somebody's going to have for an entire year. That room absolutely should be a part of that.
So can you describe that? I would say that multi-sensory experience. What does that look like? What does that feel like? You mentioned the party host controls it. What is the guest? What's that kid thinking and seeing and experiencing when everyone's singing happy birthday?
Yeah, it's a cool question. And I think it's different on the size of the party. I think the feeling of it will be relatively similar, but the size of the party makes a difference. What I mean by that is if you have a kid's party and a kid doesn't have like a super high, like giant of friends, and my wife works in SPED. So I have two sons that have a SPED diagnosis. So like understand sometimes it's hard to make friends. Sometimes you don't have a great group. So like we would go to some of these kids' parties, and I have 5 kids and I work in the attractions industry. So I've been to thousands of parties, I think, over the last 20 something years. So some of these parties will have like 5 kids there. And when 5 kids and their family sing happy birthday, it doesn't have the same weight when you have like 25, 50 people in a room singing it. So in some of what we do, we design the room to sing to the birthday kid happy birthday. And the lights go crazy. There's sound. I mean, we make the room smell like a certain thing when we do that. And the weight of that, the room singing happy birthday feels just as full if it was 50 people singing to that birthday child. So we just wanted to do something we thought would feel pretty full for every single person. When I talk about changing the world, it's all of these little tiny psychological things we think have a real big impact.
So I'm wondering, go ahead.
No, it's good. It just feels more, I think it feels more special. Like it has more weight to it.
And that's where I kind of wanted to jump into, because you talked about the kind of the psychological impact and changing the world. And somebody might say, well, it's just a birthday party. How are we changing the world? So, where do you see those dots connecting and the psychology behind that experience that then can change the world?
Yeah. So I think if you go to a normal kid's birthday party now, you go in, you check in, you drop your stuff in the room, and you go around your entertainment center and have a fantastic time. There's going to be tons of really cool stuff for you to do. Then they break into the room, they sing and they eat cake, and then they run back out and do it. So the entertainment center is always going to be itself the star of the show. We just wanted to make the room also a part of that. So if a kid can come in and have that moment, or if a kid gets to push the button and have the room sing them happy birthday, they get to trigger that. I think those things are really pretty cool. And the feeling that somebody gets from doing that, we do like a bunch of back end like surveys to make sure we're doing the right job. And we have a near perfect score with every birthday party that we've had it in. So we feel like not just that the kids feel like they're having a good time and that they're the star of the show, but also the parents really love that. So you have like a mom or a dad on this day that's really hard to save up another $500 to have this kid's party. So to be able to do that and get real, like visible, tangible value out of that experience is validating, because like, again, people work so hard to save up that money, and then to be able to get the feedback that like, this was one of the best parties we've ever had is super awesome to us.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine too, and just thinking from an operational logistics standpoint, if there is more of an emphasis into the party room, and it's not just the space where, like you said, eat cake, pizza, sing, and then run back out. There's a capacity benefit for this as well, because it then removes the large group from maybe the rest of the entertainment center that can then be used for other parties that are using them for their playtime, for walk-in families. Can you talk about, I would say, just the operational component of this and the benefit of saying, hey, keep people in the room, give them a more valuable experience in the party room, and then the entire center actually benefits from it.
Yeah. So I guess the operations part of running it would be similar to what it would be now. So the idea is, how do we fold into a similar operation that somebody's running, but be able to give value in all parts of that journey. So if there's already considerable value of like going on the track and playing the games and doing this stuff at the center, and coming in the room, instead of it being like necessarily a cool down, it still can be, but it's also going to be something that they get to have fun in that room as well. Now, what I didn't touch on, which I think is interesting to add, is the room also doubles as a sing-along room. So what happens is we wanted to do something where it felt similar and warm. So the lights in the room, we wired in something like people would have at home, where you see like all the kids have the LEDs in the room and you can clap and like the lights interact with you. So we added that. So it feels very much like something that most children have at home. And then they have the ability to sing along with anything, or they could just talk into the microphone. And when I say sing along, I mean that from a standpoint of, there's like a lot of chatter about karaoke. And I find that stuff like karaoke is more for extroverts, but the majority of the population is not extroverts. So we wanted to design something that allowed people to kind of grow into that and then remove themselves as they saw fit. So the event then becomes not just, again, like the normal drop the room and go, but you can actually also wiring other stuff to that event. Like if you wanted to give them more time and they wanted to do like a sing along / karaoke style, you can add that to the party, or you could just give it to them. So there's stuff that we recommend, but there's stuff like centers could just charge for, kind of adjust the timing to be able to see fit if it's a higher peak season or lower peak season.
Yeah. Nick, this is going to show my age, but when you started talking about clapping for the lights, I thought of the clapper, to turn the lights on and things like that. So, but
have you seen the LED lights in kids' rooms now?
I don't have kids, so no, I have not.
Oh, okay. So when we get off, you got to Google it, like LED lights in kids' rooms. It's a strip of LED lights that goes across the ceiling. And like almost every teen, young adult person that I know has them. It's like a phenomenon. It's super cool because I love that kind of stuff, but not something I would have had when I was their age.
Sure. Well, in your... Yeah. You also just mentioned, extroverts, and not everybody is an extrovert. And the last time we chatted, we talked about the term ambivert. And I'm curious how that fits into the psychology of this room design, but also just in attractions in general.
Yeah, that's another good one. So, some of it started with me trying to understand myself, and some of it was me in the product line. So I think both of those things happen in parallel. Like, most people just want to be better and learn about themselves. And in my personal journey, I've always considered myself like an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. I don't think I'm either. I don't want to be front of the anything. I always prefer to be behind the scenes, but I also like people and I like interacting with people, but like not for 24 hours straight. I need a little recharge. So I just always said I was an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert. And then through my trying to build something special in regards to Twinkle, I found that there was a term called ambivert, and it means you're not introverted or extrovert. It's right in the middle, and it's people who can dial up the extroversion for a period of time, and then they need recharge time when they go home. So they can go out and do social events, and they can interact with people, but then when they go home, it's quiet time. They want to be in their room, they want to think, they just want to have like a little recharge time. And when I found that term, I was like, oh man, that's totally me. Like I can do the social things, but unprompted, I just kind of stay at home and I like to recharge. So it's like, how do we design something for the masses? So if extroverts are 30% of the population or so, we're really only creating, if it was karaoke, a solution for a third. What we wanted to do is try to find a way, how do we get better coverage? How do we design something for the majority, not for the few? So we started to kind of go through what we could do from a technical what's in the world, what can we blend into the system? And we found we were able to basically build a sing-along version for the room, and that allows people that might be ambiverts to come in and sing like their favorite part of a song without singing the whole song. And what I mean by that is we developed some tech that allows somebody to stream right from like your personal device right into the system. So the song list is your song list. It's your Spotify, it's your Apple iTunes. You're streaming it right from YouTube. If you want to actually do karaoke, you can stream it from YouTube and look at the words, but allows you to be like in the shower, but like clothed and in public, where you can sing the parts that you can sing Because in the shower, I'm amazing. But as soon as I get out of the shower, my wife is like, Jesus, like you're making like the cat scream next door. Like, it's terrible. So there's parts of songs that I think I can really hit, and there's parts that I can't. And the system allows individuals in that environment to do the same thing. They grow into the parts they want to sing, and they shrink with the parts they don't. And the whole time, the artist is just going along. Fun stuff.
What I'm taking away from this here is kind of catering to the ambiverts, all right? Not just, focusing on extrovert, where you said that, as far as, percentage of population is, it's about making your guests feel comfortable in your venue and making your guests feel like this is not a strong reach for them in one way or another, somewhere where they feel more natural. They feel that this can tie in with a little bit more third space, kind of somewhere where they just have a comfortable space to go. And this karaoke example is one of probably many examples of just we want to make sure, no matter where they fit in as far as kind of their kind of psychological category of introvert, extrovert, or ambivert, is that they know they can come here and be themselves. Am I looking at this through kind of a similar lens here?
Yeah, no, that's totally right on. Absolutely. Want to try to create something where, ambiverts are roughly 70% of the US population. And I think introverts are miscategorized and extroverts are miscategorized. So if we say ambiverts are roughly 70% of the population, I think there's only 15 and 15 left, respectively. So if the extroverts are comfortable doing extroverted stuff, then we'll get the 70% from the ambiverts, and we'll get the 15% from the extroverts. And we'll get 85% coverage. We'll get a little bit of the introverts that can sing just a little tiny bit and then back off. So for us, it was focused on how do we build something for most of the people, not few of the people.
Yeah. Nick, can you also talk a little bit about how this study and this knowledge of ambivert, that category, how that impacts the staff as well? Because we've got to have hosts in the party room, and just team members in general that are interacting with the public. So how does that knowledge of the fact that we've got mostly people that are in that ambivert category, how does that affect our staff development?
Yeah, that's a really fun one too, because when I bring up the term ambivert, most people haven't heard of it. So it's like we're running almost like a class at the same time. We're trying to train people as far as like where people are in the world, and how to categorize them and how to give them the most possible. So it's a super cool. I like this kind of stuff. So for me, it's super cool. Maybe somebody else, it may not be, but it's a super cool time to be able to educate people about how other people work, and then also try to deliver something for those people. So not only do we do like a mini training and explain to them all the things we're speaking about now, but then we actually do a session where we do like a mock party, and then we'll have people there be the party person. We go through the whole thing. And without fail, there's always somebody who like never wants to do anything that'll just do like a few lines, and you watch them. And then they might want to do it again later. So it's like just getting people like a little further in, than they would have been before is just cool to watch. And I think the staff responds like unbelievably well when they learn something new, and it's something they can wrap their head around. We do a physical hands-on application of that, and then they get to practically apply it later. So they get the education piece, then we do the hands-on piece, and then they go and apply it.
How important then, and this is maybe kind of piggybacking off of Matt's question here, is how important is it for let's take that party host in particular to be someone who is outgoing, energetic, and enthusiastic? One of the things that I talk about with my FEC clients in particular is that the party host is the party. Like, they have the opportunity to be the most memorable part of it, while also acknowledging and fully respecting that enthusiasm looks different for different people. And some people might say, well, I'm not a people person. I'd rather, just be a little bit more reserved. I'd rather just, maybe even just like being a court monitor, which I could just kind of observe and, jump in as I need to, or something like that. But then I look at it and say, well, is something like hospitality is not so much a personality trait as it is an operational requirement, and trying to lean in towards that, but also not making somebody do something that they don't want to do. And that's always, I think, a challenge to be able to kind of find that balance of, yes, making sure there's the right person that's in the right role, but also really being able to kind of define you can personalize it to your own personality trait in terms of what that looks like within the parameters that we have. I don't know if this is a ramble or if I'm spot on or the way that you look at it as well.
Uh, I'll try to answer. If I miss something, just double back.
That's
So, in my conversations with owners and management, I hear a lot of the same thing. And what I hear a lot is some of this generation, the social skills are not as strong as it was in prior generations. And I have some of that at home. Like I have an adult daughter who struggles with calling anybody on the phone. It's just her comfort level is not there. So, the social dynamic of going to a bar and like meeting people and having to chat and having to make social connection, bar sales are down. This generation understands that, drinking a lot of alcohol is bad for you. So they just don't do it. Some of those opportunities to grow your social skills are born out of those terrible places where you were drinking and stuff like that. So there's a miss there. And what we think we're also trying to solve for is the ability to allow someone who is comfortable interacting with other people, but doesn't have the developed social skills to be able to use that room to help lean into the party. So you don't have to be the rock star party person. You absolutely need that, Josh. You're 100% right on. But it's hard for a lot of businesses to find those people and keep them long term. Usually that electric personality, you're going to have them for a period of time. And if you don't pay them well or create enough opportunity, they're chasing the next opportunity because they have that skill set and they have that electricity. So if you have to find people that are great people that like are comfortable interacting with other humans, but might not be electric, we think the room and kind of creating a cadence of coming in and showing them like, hey, like do this, everybody claps, right? Do this. And hey, like this will make the room make a smell. And then the room makes a smell, everybody smells. And hey, this will sing you happy birthday. It sings them happy birthday. Then they get to kind of use props of sorts. And the props are really fun. Give a microphone to a kid, they scream into the microphone, they see the lights move. So we're creating, I think, a way to be able to help people, be the best that they can be and be the best that they could be for those parties. So it allows you to have maybe not the super rock star, hard to keep person in that role. We're able to onboard people that are going to be really great people, but maybe not as extroverted, not as like rock star as far as driving the party. Now this helps them drive the party.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Josh?
Yeah, I think my only follow-up to that is how do you screen for that in the recruitment process?
So there's lots of cool stuff. So there's a brand that I was working with that was based out of Australia. I'm going to give them a little shot here. They're called Fun Lab. I was working with them in 2022 and 2023. And I was lucky enough to go over to Australia and spend some time in their home office. And when you talk about screening, they have a slide on their second floor. They have a rack of like costumes. So when you go for an interview, like they'll say like, oh, you're going to be frontline, like go pick a costume, and you're doing your interview in a costume. And then they make you go down the slide to see if you're a fun person. So I think when you're going through the interviewing process, again, kudos to the team at Fun Lab. They figured out a way to validate. Like if you say you're fun, show me you're fun. Like go have fun, go put the costume on, go down the slide. We want to see you have fun. So I think validating the things that people are saying in that process is important, because if you can see them having fun, they're going to have fun.
Well, and the other thing I hear in that description is, well, the word that pops to mind is development, right? Because you may have that rock star that is outgoing, but doesn't know what to do with that energy, right? So you're giving them the tools, you're giving them the ideas to take that to the next level, or to harness that energy in the right direction for that particular party. And then from that, I think they start to develop all those things on their own. Because one of the things that I talk to people about is they say, well, I want to do it, but I don't know how. I don't know what to do. I've got the energy, I've got the desire, here's what I think it could be, but I don't know those specific things. I don't know how to interact with a group of people. I don't know how to get these folks to sing happy birthday, So that's kind of what I hear too, is that this is not just about the party, and maybe this is the changing the world part. Because we're not just changing the world for the birthday kid, but we're also helping develop the skills of the people who are driving those experiences to then take that to the next level in their next role or their next job.
Yeah, it's a cool way to look at it. I'm gonna use that later.
Feel free. That's what we're all about.
I'll be like, look, Matt said I'm changing it not just for the world, but also for the staff too.
So I did want to ask, though, about something you mentioned before we started recording. a little shifting of gears, because you talked about the E-shaped economy. And I'm curious if you can talk just a little bit about that and what that might mean to operators.
Yeah, so this is fun for me. I love this statistical analysis stuff. I pour into that. So I don't consume media like many other people. Like I don't come home after a long day and watch TV or a movie unprompted. I won't watch anything except live football. Otherwise, I don't watch any TV. My wife will find a show and I'll watch it with her because I love my wife and I want us to have connection and stuff to talk about. So I'll do that. Otherwise, unprompted, I won't. And if I'm unprompted, I do all kinds of stuff. Like I look at stats. I like to build solutions. I'll try to find new KPIs. So in 2024, we were helping a brand, and this is in my other job at Pinnacle Entertainment Group. So we were helping a brand, and I started to notice some funky stuff in data. I'll call it data wiggle. And I just kind of look through that, and I try to chase anomalies, or I'll try to have an idea of something and recreate it. So I started to see something. What I thought I saw was unusual numbers from the standpoint of, for a long time, people have been saying this is a K-shaped economy, and I've been pounding this trident solution since 2024. So I think there's roughly five buckets of customers or guests that you have. But for the sake of this conversation, we're going to put it to three: your entry-level spender, your mid-tier spender, and your top-tier spender. And I think what's happening is that the bottom tier spender, about 20 to 30% of them have evaporated from the marketplace. Now, whether that's I don't have the money now, or I had free money and now I don't have free money, whether it's I lost my job, whether it's I'm working a second job and I just don't have time to go there as frequently. There's lots of stat and dats that'll support all of those things I'm saying. For whatever reason, they're just not there. So 20 to 30% have evaporated. The middle tier spender is spooked. So they can see what's happening. They have a 401k. They can see what's happening in the world, and they are either spending more thoughtfully, spending less, or less frequently. Your top tier spender is spending just as much as they spent before, 3 to 5% more. So you have more spending at the top, you have spook spending in the middle, and you have evaporated people at the bottom. So when you're building a solution, you have to build it for all three levels. Because if you're just building it for volume, you're just going to get people through there. But if you're not targeting how they're going to spend and what they're going to do and what their behavior patterns like, it could be a miss. You spend all that money in marketing and promotions to get very little back from that. So we're lucky to see a lot of stuff. We saw that high tier spending was 5% up, middle tier was flat, and the bottom tier was 15% down. The net on that was low double digits down, high single digits down, 9, 10, 12% down. So we started to design solutions very targeted, very specific. We've had crazy, crazy success. I mean, we've been able to beat trend with everybody we work with. It's a very nuanced, very layered solution, but I very much believe that is the pathway.
So what does that look like? I imagine it's more than just designing packages that cater to the highest spenders. How do you kind of spread that out, but still being able to really take advantage of it?
And it really depends on the box. So there's the cool part and the not cool part about some of what we do is that there is no silver bullets. Like there's no like one-stop shop solution thing. And I think the world has done a really good job of making people believe that that's always the answer. And gentlemen, it's not. There's like 3, 4, 5 different things. And if you have a bowling anchor at FEC, that's going to be different than a movie theater anchor at FEC. That's going to be different than like a karting anchor at FEC. It's going to be different based upon if you're in a high volume, high traffic location, if you're in a tertiary market. Like all of those solutions really vary based upon all of the things that are unique to that business. So I don't know that there's one thing I can say, but I can say is looking at at a minimum, it's looking at all three levels, entry level, mid tier, and high level, and then building very specific things for those three levels. If you build it for just one as an overarching strategy, that's where the miss is. If you can build it for all three, whether that's going to be in promotion, packages, discounting, repeat visit, bounce back, whatever it's going to wind up being, it has to be that specific lens to use to get the most out of it.
Nick, I'm wondering if we can switch gears again, but go back to something you mentioned earlier, which was, spending time with your wife and your family, because you were talking earlier about, before we started recording, about how you are very intentionally making time for the family, so that it doesn't get knocked off your calendar. And I talk to a lot of people about time management and work-life balance, and how they can have a balance between, their what they're doing with work and still making time for their family. So, you had some great insights on that. I wonder if you could share.
Yeah, happy to. Uh, I have like a flow of consciousness stuff. So what I mean by that is like I still don't know when trash day is. Like I'm sure if I sat and thought about it, I would know, but I never take out the trash in my own home. One of my kids have to do it or my wife has to do it. Now, if I put it in my calendar, I know I'll do it every week, but I don't. I have other things in there. So in learning about time management and calendar management, what I did was I just started to schedule date nights, because what happened is like a decade would go by and I would never initiate a date. It would be my wife like, oh, we're going out to eat and like, or we're going out with this couple. And I'd be like, great, we'll do that. But it was never really me. And then we've been married 22 years. And, just to try to keep a little bit of the magic in the relationship, I was like, all right, I have a responsibility here to put a little bit of excitement and delight. I talk about that all the time at work. I probably should do that at home. So I just started to do that. So my wife is a big Danny Elfman fan. And then just this weekend, Dallas Symphony Orchestra had Danny Elfman. He was here and he sung some of the songs like from Nightmare Before Christmas. So as soon as I saw those tickets go on sale, I immediately bought 2 tickets, center, top row, because I knew it would be something. It was on her bucket list. So it was like, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to schedule the date and then it'll just be on both of our calendars. And that I get like an 85-90% hit rate once it's on my calendar. So I know once it's in there, I know that I'll likely commit to it with a very high rate. And I need to take not just my business stuff at the highest possible level, but I need to have my personal life be involved in that as well. Because if I'm always chasing the work, but I'm never taking care of the home, then one day I might come home and there's nobody here to share it with. So for me, it was important to try to find a way to make sure that my partner felt some of that surprise and delight as well.
Yeah.
It's good advice. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. You mentioned date nights, which oftentimes could be dinner. And this is my segue here. Speaking of dinner, that is food. We know that one of your favorite foods is pizza, that you're a pizza enthusiast, aficionado. What is your favorite type of pizza?
This is such a fun one. I'm a purist. I'm not fun. Like I don't do the supreme or all the stuff on it. Cheese pizza, margarita, grandma style if I can find it in the right place, and that's old school. That's like gravy or like tomato, like pasta sauce, and then fresh mozzarella and a little basil, maybe a little olive oil. That's like my go-to. You can find some of that in the world, but mostly just regular cheese pizza. And I prefer it like my personal preference is thin. However, I have grown to appreciate pizza from all over the world. So deep dish in Chicago, you have the pan style in Detroit. There's so many fun, different kinds of variation in pizza, but I always go back to the just plain cheese is my go-to.
Yeah. And I've had the honor of having pizza with Nick in the past, and it's quite an education. So, I again really appreciate that opportunity. And Nick, this has been just a great conversation. Thank you so much for all the time that you've been able to share with us. If people want to learn more about you or learn more about 45 Games, where would you send them?
To my house. Come and visit. You contact us. It's 45games.com is our website. Nick at 45 Games is my email. And if you've interacted with me, you'll likely will interact with our assistant, Nikki. She is the backbone of what we do. So she keeps all the admin stuff on track. So if you're interacting with me, there's a really good chance you're interacting with Nikki. So Nick and Nikki. And she's a darling, and we're super lucky to have her. And I'm sure if you're interacting with me, you'll have an opportunity to interact with her. And like I said, she's all aces.
Awesome. Excellent. Nick, thank you so much for a great conversation. And thank you for being episode 450. So 45 times 10. Glad that we were able to make it happen for this cool milestone episode for us. Definitely on our end, we really appreciate it. And for everyone out there who is watching and listening, just remember, we are all attraction pros.